Hey, what's up? I'm Kirk of Effectatron, and today we're going to go over creating this really cool clovery covered muddy wetland kind of vibe, and we're just going to cover some basic tips when using Quixel assets that are free to use for personal use and training. But basically, there's some things that, you see it, you download it, and you bring it into Redshift, and it doesn't look right. It doesn't work like you want it to. And there's just a few settings you need to tweak and change to actually get it working well, as well as some tips and tricks on how to get your cloner and the arrangement of your plants and things just to look a little bit more realistic and better. So, we're going to cover just basically fixing Quixel Bridge stuff and making it look really nice, and some tips and tricks onto creating a photorealistic looking scene and setup. So it's going to be pretty easy. I'm not going to go over installing Quixel and all that stuff. You can just follow the online instructions for that. They're pretty straightforward and easy to do. You just want to make sure you have that installed. And what I will say is, if you are interested in learning the landscape creation of things, because I really am, I love doing it, and it's a lot of fun. And I have a lesson that's over an hour long about creating landscapes and stuff inside of Cinema 4D with Quixel assets and things in a way that lets you manually draw landscapes. And whenever you elevate the land, it puts a cliffside on the side and grass or whatever on top automatically, and it updates procedurally. So if you're interested in that, check out chapter 4 of the Mind and Motion workshop, or the entire workshop is on sale right now for 40% off. It's 100 plus videos, 40 plus hours of training, 70 or 80 actual renders that you'll create, and everything that you see inside the workshop is included for you to download. I don't use anything that's behind a paywall. So yeah. Anyway, if you're interested in that, check that out in the link below and help support me as well. So speaking of teaching and learning styles and stuff, I want to talk about one tool that I love to use, and that is Skillshare. Skillshare has sponsored this video, and they actually have some amazing classes on here that you can just start your creative journey and become a member and learn and just really dive into all kinds of stuff. So I have lots of classes on here, and I'm adding more regularly. I'm putting the Ultimate Redshift lighting course on here. That's going on here. And there's besides just me, there's a lot of other great teachers and stuff on here to learn Redshift and C4D. One of my favorites is Evelyn Salazar, who I got the chance to talk to during the Mind and Motion workshop. I got to interview her, and she's maybe one of the happiest, nicest people I've ever gotten the chance to talk to. And her stuff is amazing, so definitely check out her C4D stuff. And another thing that Skillshare has, it's really cool, are these learning paths. And so one that I think will be applicable to a lot of my viewers is this pricing and negotiation for creative freelancers, right? So it's this catered course on figuring out basically, what to charge clients and stuff like that, and how to make money. The learning paths are really cool because they're curated playlists basically of a cohesive idea. So it's not just one artist, but a bunch of classes put together to teach you something, like this one, which I'm probably going to take, and basically I definitely need to take, and that is how to promote your personal brand with zero experience, because that is me. And so you just got a list of all these classes from different teachers and stuff that all go together on how to do different things. So there's a lot of stuff like that. And besides just 3D stuff that's on Skillshare, I mean, they're adding new one-on-one sessions. They've got animation, creative writing, film, video art, fine art, graphic design, music, UX, how to freelance, how to market, lifestyle, stuff like that. I mean, honestly, Skillshare is just an amazing place with all kinds of stuff. It's super cool. You're editing, drawing, whatever you want. There's something there for everybody. I guarantee it. So definitely check it out. And again, thanks Skillshare for sponsoring this video. It's a great resource for anyone wanting to learn really anything. So with all of that said, all of these resources available, and there's even more. We've barely scratched the surface of what Skillshare has to offer. I will say that the first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive 1 month free trial through Skillshare, and you can get started today. And that means you can take all of my classes, whatever classes that are on there, you can watch all that free of charge for a month. So take advantage of that, the first 500 people. So go ahead and click that before it gets clicked away. So super awesome. All right, let's go back to the video. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about bringing this in. So if we have a new scene here, instead of our new scene, I just have it set up kind of really basic. I've got a plane with 1,000 by 1,000 segments because we're going to use displacement, and then a figure for scale, which is very important when using assets, and just a normal dome light with the sky map on it from the asset browser. Now, it's important to note that when you have Quixel you need to make sure inside of your preferences, inside of the render option underneath Redshift, you have to have the node materials for presets off, which is lame because then when you double click, it creates the old shader graph, which is just disgusting and hard to look at, right? No, it's not my favorite. The cool thing is you can set up a button here that allows you to create a new material in the new shader graph that still allows you to work and create inside of the new graph while still having the option to bring in older assets without messing up your workflow. If you want to learn how to do that, that's in chapter 1 of the Mind in Motion workshop, #ad. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up Quixel. And we're going to go ahead and grab the excavated dirt road. Now, there's a couple things I want to do before I bring this in. And that is, inside of Cinema 4D, you want to make sure you have the Megascans plugin enabled. And you want to make sure you have Use EXRs when available, Apply Material to Selection if you want. I like to do that. And Enable Displacement. All of these settings are optional. Enable Displacement doesn't actually enable displacement right away, but it does bring in the Redshift object tag on there for you at least. So it's sort of helpful. All right, so we'll get our plane selected because that's what we're going to throw our material on. And we have our excavated dirt road. And we could do 8K or 4K. Since we're going to cover it up with a bunch of clovers, I'm not really too worried about it being 8K. So we're going to choose 4K. And inside of here, this is the key to this, is you have download settings and export settings. And they don't update each other, so it's kind of annoying. So download settings, we want to make sure we have our displacement. We can use EXR if you want. That's totally fine. And then we'll go back, and then we'll go ahead and go to export settings. And instead of here, we want to make sure we've got C4D, and then our textures for our surfaces, displacement, and we want to make sure that those line up as well, which by default they don't. And the weird thing is that it says it's going to be an EXR. It says it's going to be gray, but when it comes in, it's actually red. And yes, those values work, but then we run into issues with it later on. So I actually just want to keep this as a JPEG for now, okay? And that's kind of how we're going to do that. And so we're going to go ahead and hit export on that. And really, it just messes it up when you need to change the minimum and maximum range. It might just have been a bug that I came across, so let me know later. But for now, we're going to be able to get what we want with the JPEG. It's going to be totally fine. All right, so that's going to come in. All right, now it's brought that in and thrown it on here for us. Now, we're going to go ahead and double click this. You can see it's the old shader graph, not an issue, because we can just grab that, go to Material, Tools, and Convert and Replace with Nodes. And there's no real reason to doing that, except it just, in my opinion, looks better. And if we do want to tweak it and mix it, it's just easier to work in the new node editor. So kind of cool that you can just do that real quick. We're going to select both of these, the roughness and the displacement, and we're going to make sure we set those to raw. So we're going to type the color space and then just type in raw, filters that out for you. Boom. And that's just important to make sure we get those reading correctly. Okay. And so if we do right now, you can see it actually brought in our Redshift displacement tag, our object tag. And we have all the settings set up here, but still, for whatever reason, Redshift doesn't allow anything to override it besides the user. So enable that inside the Redshift tag, and now we'll get displacement. Now, so we'll cover a few things with Redshift displacement here. We'll go ahead and render this and take a look at some issues you'll come across and then how to fix those and make this look better. Right, so the displacement looks pretty good. We've got a cool looking ground, but we're covering up our dude's feet. So it's all raising up above that. And then on top of that, we also have the issue of now if we want to move around, we've got to wait for it to cook. And then it lets us look. So let me real quick just tell you how to fix that issue. Once you have your displacement and stuff set up how you want it, you can just click the snowflake, and that's going to bake in that tessellation for you. It's going to do it one time. And then as long as you don't uncheck the play button here, we've now got our snappiness back in our IPR. A lot of people don't know about that, but that lag is not render time lag or anything. It's just calculating that subdivision that the tessellation is doing every time. So once you bake that in, you can get rid of that and you can work in real time again. But we're not going to do that because we're going to do it differently. So what we want to do is let's go ahead and fix the fact that we are covering up our dude's feet. So we're going to open up this material, and all we have to do is inside of the displacement node, we're going to change the new range minimum and the new range maximum to -0.5 and 0.5. So we're going to keep that difference between the lows and the highs of the same ratio, but we are now going to push it and sink it in. So it should allow our plane to actually stay where we want it to stay. So that's going to fix that issue for us. Boom. So now we still have displacement on our object, but we actually can still see our guy's feet. So we're not running into that issue of clipping into ghost things when building your scene out. Pretty cool. So let's just go ahead and we'll work with this. I want to tweak this because I want it to look more like wet mud. So I'm actually just going to grab my material and go to coating and just throw like a 0.8 coat layer on it and maybe like a 0.3 in the roughness. And we'll up the IOR a bit to like 1.6. And now it should look a little wetter, which looks good. Okay, so let's go ahead and just talk about issues with the way this is and how to change this. So let's go ahead and open up our render view. We'll take a look at that. We'll turn our snowflake back on. And we'll dock this real quick. All right, there we go. Now it looks, wetter, a little better. Not too bad. Okay, might be too much, but we'll deal with that later. Let's just turn it down now, actually. We'll deal with it now. Coding, and lower that down to like 0.6. Should be fine. Cool. Nice. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in a clover. So we'll go ahead and open up Quixel. And we'll come in here. We'll go to 3D plants. And we'll do ground cover. And we want to do... Is it ground cover? Maybe not. We'll come in here. We'll do 3D plants. We'll come in here to 3D plants, and we're going to type in wood sorrel, which is a clover, but if you type in clover, it doesn't show up. It's like an herb, technically. So sometimes you just have to scroll through Quixel to find stuff, because if I was looking for clovers, this would be great. But it's not called clover, and it doesn't pop up with clover. It's called the wood sorrel. So we're going to have this, and it brings in all these different assets. 4K is fine. It's probably overkill, but we'll go ahead and export that. Okay, that brings in all of this gibberish, which is just the clovers. So the first thing I like to do is just select them all and group them and call them, just name them, because it's just hard to remember sometimes when you're working with stuff. You don't have to for this tutorial, but it just helps. Now, you may notice that they've come in and they're kind of huge. Maybe it's because it's wood sorrel and not clovers. Could be, but I just want to shrink them down. So I'm going to shrink them all down as a unit and just shrink them down until they're about the right size. That's why it's helpful to have this guy here. We could go a little smaller even. Yeah, something like that. Little clovers, maybe even smaller. Let's go real tiny. Why not? Cool. A little patch of clovers. So now, one thing we may notice, let's zoom in here, is that our colors are kind of washed out and crappy looking. So we need to open this up, and once again, we'll need to convert this real quick just so we can work with it a little easier. Convert to nodes, open it up, and you realize it comes in with a translucency map, but not a color map. So that's just because translucency is a really nice way to get... Sorry, my dog is barking. So it comes in with a translucency channel for the backlight, which is a really nice feature that the new standard material doesn't have. But it has some new transmission depth and all that, so we'll let it pass. Sprites are very important. This is basically, we're going to go ahead and change this to raw. So it's anything black and white, we're going to change to raw. It's just going to make it look a little better. And we'll say color space, raw. There we go. And it's brought in our displacement as a red map. It'll be okay. But one thing I want to do for this color is I want to basically make a copy of this. Hold Control, click and drag. And then I want to take the gamma of it and up it to like 1.5, just so it's like a little darker version. And I'm going to grab that and plug that into the diffuse. So that way when that light passes through and triggers the translucency, it is just like a little bit brighter. And I think it just helps make it just pop a little bit more. It's kind of a nice little feature. Okay, so now this is looking much, much better. Very cool. And that's that for that. So now let's go ahead and, we'll grab a cloner, put it in here, and we're going to grab all these, put them inside the cloner, switch it to multi-instance, switch it to object, grab our plane, make it our plane, and then we'll do like 2000 to start. Okay, we definitely need more, so go transform, -90, so it's, you know, offset correctly. And then we'll say like 20,000. We'll look at this. And here's the thing, is that this is okay, but let's say, you know, for our displacement, we want it to be more displaced. We're going to crank it up to 20 and 20, so our like indents are a little more intense. It's going to look really nice, except now, you know, our clovers are just really flat, right? And they're not going with the geometry. And that doesn't look good. So how do we get the displacement we want on the terrain, but then also have our clovers interact with that? Well, pretty easy, actually. What we need to do is we take this and we're going to turn off displacement. Gone. All right. And then what we're going to do is actually add a displacement modifier. Hold Shift and grab a displacer. And instead of shading, we're going to go to shader and we're going to choose bitmaps. And underneath the bitmaps are going to be all the maps that are available inside your scene. And we want to choose ground other displacement. And voila. Now we actually have literal geometry displacement, but with the texture maps from Quixel. So pretty nice, right? And the cool thing is that this actually works the way we want it to, because it's set to intensity centered. And that's the same thing as -0.5 and 0.5. So it's centered. So now we actually have that going. So if we crank that up to 20, we can do that. And then our clovers are actually going to be, you know, going with our geometry. Like 20 is a little much, but just for example's sake, let's go ahead and say like 50,000 so we can see them. And now you can see they're actually like going with the geometry. But, I mean, that looks horrible, right? Because the clovers don't grow out like that. Everything kind of grows up. So how do we fix that? Well, you just turn off Align to Clone. And then we'll just need to turn off our -90. There we go. So really, you could just do less work. But I wanted you to know that that's available. So now that stuff is going to go with our displacement and stuff like that. And the only issue now is that, you know, for it to really look great, we need to have a whole bunch of segments. And it kind of maxes out at 1,000. So that's where having this enabled will still help. So this looks pretty cool, but I think it'd be really good if we had like a layer of water in here, like a puddle. So we're going to go ahead and add a plane. And because we actually displace it in our geometry, it's actually really easy to get this kind of exactly where we want it. We can go like right there. We'll create a new material, throw that on the plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to transmission, crank that all the way up to 1, take the diffuse color all the way off, lower the reflection down and the IOR down. And what I want to do is add some depth to this. So it looks like nice clear water there, but I want to actually make it look like muddy. So we're going to add like a little bit of depth, like 0.3. We're going to go to the color and we're going to make it nice and murky, like a nasty dirt. Yeah? Okay. And that's just going to add that little extra bit of realness to that layer for us. So if we come in here and we look, we have these like ones underwater here, and that looks pretty good. But what I want to do is actually add like a thickness to this water. So it's going to, you know, that transmission depth is going to work even better. So I'm going to grab the assets here and hold Alt and let go on thicken. And we're going to make sure we set that down -100, which is going to put all the thickness down that way. So now we actually have like a thick layer of water there for it to work with. And what we're going to do is throw this on the thicken. Okay. And then what we're going to do is come down here and we're going to up the scatter and entropy up to like maybe 0.8. There we go. And I think I have it too thick. We'll say like 4 centimeters. It may not change that much. But what we can do is, instead of this, just start dialing back that depth like 0.2. And that's going to make it murkier there. It's hard to say, which looks nice. And then we can actually add a little extra roughness underneath. So then it's like, you know, kind of blurred and dirty in the water, like kind of like how it is. You can't like see through it clearly. It's like nice, dirty, blurred water. So like maybe 0.25, not crazy, but like that. So we're still going to get clean reflections on top, but we're going to add that roughness inside of it. So we have that. And we could probably back off this entropy a little bit. Oh yeah, bring that color back in. that's looking really nice. So it just adds a little bit of extra detail. I don't even think we need the thicken, but just know that that's an option if you do want to do that to an object. Cool. So that looks really nice. I'm liking that. Geometry, everything's looking pretty good. I think all we need to do really is maybe do more clovers. So we'll say like 90,000 instead of 50,000. There we go. And one thing we can do is with this cloner, we can go ahead and go to MoGraph, Effector, and Random Effector. And rather than, that's going to instantly blast everything up all over space and time, we don't want that. Go down to Parameters, dial all these back down. We're going to say like the offset maybe 1 and 1 here, but 0 on the Y, because that's going to be where it attaches to the ground. And then rotation is a very important one. We definitely want that to be totally random here on the H, which is just going to allow things to be rotated around, which is going to make it look nice. And then we'll save like 5 and 5 here, just so there is some variation there if we want. And then the scale is important. You could do uniform scale, but I actually like to be able to control, the Y here. So if I wanted my clovers to like grow really tall, I could. But I'm going to say 1 in the Y, which is just going to give us some nice variation here. How tall things are, and then we'll do like 0.2 and 0.2 in the X and Y. So we're not making things like bigger overall, just taller, more tall variation, which is a nice little effect when it comes to like plants and stuff like grass. You can normally get away with it without messing up the way it looks. And we'll grab our entire cloner, and we're going to go to the coordinates, and I'm just going to push it down into the ground like negative 0.15, just to kind of suck everything into the ground just a little bit. Maybe that's too far though. Just because I think it'll gives us a little bit of freedom and a little more realism. Yeah, negative 0.1. There we go. And that's all looking pretty good. And so we can turn our guy off. And the last thing we need to do is just add some nice lighting into this. So we'll grab an area light, and which is, you might be surprised, but we'll turn off the dome light for now. Got our area light here. We can save this as what's this? Clover 1. And with our area light selected, let's go ahead and add a target tag at null. Bingo bongo. We'll pull this light back this way and up, and we'll go ahead and go to our side view here. And we want to make sure this is pulled back a little more. You can see where that translucency is really popping now. And we're going to make our light bigger, say 500 by 500. And we're going to take the spread all the way down to 0. It's going to make it super sharp. We're going to change the intensity to like 2, because it's way too bright right now. There we go. And then what we're going to do is going to go into the asset browser and type in Gobo. And we're going to grab one that's going to have some like good patches. We're going to grab one from Maxon, which is like really clear like this. And you kind of just want to look at these and blur your eyes. And we're looking at like, because we're going to soften them up, but we want like a good array of light and dark patches, kind of like this one. We'll grab that, pull it in here. And it's going to make everything much darker right off the bat. But it gives us this nice illusion of like patchy, cloudy skies. So let's go ahead and crank it up to like 5. And then what we can do is start dialing this up just a bit on the spread, like 0.005. And that's just going to soften those up for us. And, if this one's too intense, you can always, adjust the scale of your light or whatever. But once we turn our dome light back on, this should just give us a really nice kind of realistic vibe. Now, I think we need to actually either rotate our dome light or our area light. And I'm just going to rotate our dome light just so it kind of matches our scene more. Because our light from our dome light's like over here, and our area light's over here. And I actually want our dome light to be over there. So grab it and rotate. And if you ever just want to do things quickly, just turn off the cloner real quick, and this is going to speed everything up quite a bit. And then we can grab our dome light and just rotate it around. Whoops. Rotate it around. Yeah, so it kind of matches. That looks nice. This looks pretty crappy. That's okay. And one thing I want to do is when I turned everything off and looked at this, I do want to add that tessellation back on afterwards, because it just kind of helped smooth it out a little bit more. So that looks nice. And then now we can turn our cloner back on. We've got our light set up how we want it. We've got that area light coming in, and we'll take a look at this. And now you can see it just looks a lot more dynamic and lifelike. So now we can just set up a camera. We'll do a camera, and we'll say something like 50. We'll do like a 50 mil. And we'll look at this, kind of tilt up, zoom back a bit. And we want it to kind of showcase the depth of this, but we'll go ahead and make it wide angle. Why not? Whoops. 1080. And now we can, whoopsies, we can, really bring it back a bit, maybe like that. Zoom out. That looks pretty good. And maybe I want my plane to kind of come up a little bit more, so we'll grab that. And we'll say actually want more water, so we'll pull that up. So that's a little more apparent. We'll say like 2. 4. Too much. 2.5. Maybe 3, because I love the way that water looks with it. Yeah. I like that. I like the lighting. I like the way that it's looking. So yeah, let's just pull that down a bit. And now we can just do a little depth of field. We'll go to optical, focus distance, probably just like, we could focus on this little light patch here. Turn on bokeh. And 8 should be too much. So we'll do like 24 aperture. We don't want it to look like tilt shifty. Just want a tiny bit of that. So yeah, so we're falling off in the background here, and the foreground just a little bit, but that looks really nice and good. So that hopefully helps you kind of troubleshoot some Quixel things, as well as like how to actually displace your ground and have your cloners go on your ground and stuff, and how to then arrange your cloners in a different way. I know it's kind of a lot, but I think the result is pretty cool. So really nice to come out with a nice, easy way to create something. And obviously, you're going to need, if you do like a big landscape or something like that, it's going to take a little bit more time. But overall, hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you did, let me know in the comments below. And next time we'll create this cool kind of windmill asset kind of thing. This is a kit bash element, but we'll create this like windy field that blows in the wind. So let me know if you want to learn how to do that as well. Again, check out my new motion workshop, available now and on sale. But very pretty scene as well. So we'll learn that next time, or in the future at least. May not be the absolute next one, but it will be coming up. All right, y'all. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. See you next time.